Revelation 12:11 says, "And they have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony." Welcome to the Word of Their Testimony podcast.
Amen.
I am so excited to be here with you today, Keri. And I feel like this is going to be really great because we had to reschedule. This is our third time trying to get this going. So I was like, man, this has to be really powerful if there's like all these obstacles in the way.
I hope so.
So thank you so much, though, for your willingness and vulnerability to just come on here and share your story. I love you so much, and I'm just going to go ahead and let you share.
Okay. Thank you so much for doing this. I know that it touches so many people, and I absolutely just love that you do this. But I just am excited to share with you something God did for me. We hear in the Bible all about healing. We hear when Jesus healed people. And I know that it's probably easy to think, okay, well, that happened back then, but like, is he still healing now? More than just a cold. Oh, I sprained my ankle and it got better. Or, oh, I'm sick and now I feel great. But like some of the miraculous healings that are in the Bible, like, do we see those nowadays? And so I just want to share with you my story because I have one of those and he does heal. So when I was in the 7th grade, I got really, really sick, and come to find out, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease in the 7th grade. That's not normally an age where a kid would get something like that. Usually it shows up when they're older. So that was pretty young. The doctors were definitely a little bit confused by that. So it took a while to be able to find it and figure out what was going on. So I had Crohn's since I was in the 7th grade. In middle school and high school, I was on prednisone. I was on all kinds of steroids. That was definitely not fun. I would a lot of times go into remission, but then also I wouldn't. And I remember not being able to go to some youth group things that were on the weekend because I was sick and I didn't want to leave the house.
So I'm sorry, I do have a question. So what exactly is Crohn's disease? Because I'm not as familiar.
So it's something in your digestive system. Mine was in my colon. It can be in your intestines. I know there's a lot of people that will even have they'll message me, they'll email me or message me on Facebook, and they're having feet, literal feet of their intestines removed, having surgeries for that. Sometimes having to have a colostomy bag put on because they are having so much of their digestive system removed. I will tell you, I'm not aging myself at all, but back in the day, it's not like we had this internet and Google at our fingertips, and we just got some pamphlets from the doctor, and I was in the 7th grade. And even if I was older, research is not my favorite thing. So it's not like I went home and Googled and studied and researched and figured all this out. I just knew that I was sick, and I knew that it was not cool. And that's basically, the doctor just explained it to me. Basically, the way he explained it to me as a kid was that there was basically a wound inside my digestive system, and then it would scab over, it would heal over, and that's when you're in remission. But then for some unknown reason, or maybe you ate a food that triggered it, or you're under stress, or they don't really know why, that scab gets removed, and then you're sick again. And so it will go in and out of remission. So you sometimes have symptoms and sometimes you don't. But of course, lots of strong, terrible medicines to get it to go into remission. If it's really bad, surgeries, things like that.
Okay.
So it's a part of your digestive system, and it's not fun. So basically, I would go up for every healing. I'd go up for every altar call. I'm praying Jesus is going to heal me. I believe Jesus is going to heal me. This isn't what he wants for me. And years and years and years. And that healing didn't happen. And I was able to have kids, and they were all healthy, and I was not sick when I was pregnant. And I have great stories, but it was still there. I still could never eat garlic. I could never eat dill pickles, which, if anyone knows me, as a child, my mom would can dill pickles, and I would sneak. I would get a jar, forget candy bars. No. It was my mom's dill pickles. I would just love, and to this day, I love dill pickles.
Aww.
But so I couldn't eat pickles. I couldn't eat anything with garlic in it. There were just things that I could never go to Olive Garden, forget that. I knew I'd never be able to go on mission trips, especially to third world countries, because you just never know. You have to eat very bland. It was terrible, but it was manageable, and also a lot of times in remission. But I'd go up for healing all the time, and it just never happened. So for 19 years, 19 years. I'd go up for altar calls when our church would have them. I'd ask people to pray for me, and never happened. When I was pregnant, I was 8 months pregnant with our last biological child, and I was huge because when I am pregnant, I am very, very, very huge. And I had worn a skirt that day because I still love dressing up for church. And they did an altar call again for healing. And I remember the pastor talking about just being desperate. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm desperate. And I also, my feet always hurt because I had some basketball injuries from the arches of my feet because I played basketball growing up a lot. And my feet were hurting. And then I always had Crohn's, but again, remission at that point, but still had it. And I was like, I am way too pregnant. I am way too miserable. And I just had the attitude, I have been asking for 19 years. God knows that I want to be healed. He can heal me if he wants to, and he has chosen not to. So that's okay. I'm not going to go up. And Andy's elbowing me. I'm like, leave me alone. Leave me alone. Like, just leave me alone. He's like, you need to go up. I'm like, I have been up many, many times. I don't need to go up again. God can heal me right here if he wants to heal me. I'm too pregnant. Leave me alone. And he just keeps nudging me. And I'm like, ah. But the problem is I had waited because I wasn't going to go up. And I don't know if anyone listening attends a church where they might just have like a crazy prayer lady, like not just your normal kind of looking and acting and behaving prayer lady, but they have like the church prayer lady who is really extra. Well, so everybody had paired up, people had gone forward and paired up to get prayer. And I was the last one to go up, and the only one left was the really extra prayer lady, and she was the only one left. And I'm like, oh no. So I go up, and this is how extra she is. The baptism tank was draining because they had just done baptisms, and they were draining the water. Just a hose was connected to it. And there's maybe 10 inches of water left in the baptism tank. And I tell her about my feet hurting, and I did not even bring up my Crohn's. And she just gets all excited, and she's like, oh, I have an idea. And I'm like, oh no. And she's like, let's put your feet in the baptism tank, in the baptism water. And I'm thinking, I am in a skirt. I am 8 months pregnant. I might as well be the size of a whale. I can't flop over my feet into the bottom of the bed. But at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm already here. So here we go. So somehow I manage, put my feet in the baptism tank, and she prays for me. And I was so embarrassed. And that was the end of that. And afterwards, I just go and I sit down and I look at Andy and just like, this is all your fault. I'm so mad. I give him that look like, I can't believe you. That's it. That's all. And then that evening, I was like, that's weird. And he's like, what? And I'm like, oh, nothing. He's like, no, what? I'm like, I don't think my feet hurt. That's impossible. My feet would hurt so bad, especially adding the weight of pregnancy, that literally, I'm a workaholic. Everyone knows that about me. I would literally like crawl around the house when I was home alone doing my chores because I still had to do laundry. I still had to do all the things, and I couldn't not do it, but I also couldn't walk without such severe pain. And so I literally had calluses on my knees from crawling. And because I just couldn't sit. That's not me. So I'm just going to crawl instead to do everything I need to get done. And I'm like, my feet don't hurt. And he's like, no way. I'm like, no, whoa, just stop. Don't get all excited. Because like, it's kind of one of those things like, don't say it out loud so it will, go away, disappear. And so I said, but yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't think my feet hurt. Fast forward a week later, my feet still didn't hurt. So now Andy's telling people like, God healed Keri's feet. They don't hurt anymore. And that was great. Now, Jackson was born, and then 6 weeks later, we were headed to the beach with Andy's parents, our first little getaway, and, we had Jackson with us. We were going, and on the way there, we stopped to eat dinner, and I was in such severe pain, and I'd been in pain all day, but we didn't know why. Come to find out, I was having an appendicitis.
Oh my goodness.
6 weeks postpartum. So I don't know if you realize, but people with Crohn's don't have to worry about having an appendicitis. It's like the opposite problems in their body. And so I'm like, how is this happening? What's going on? So we had to go to the hospital. 7 hours later, they finally operate. It was horrible, but done. When all that was over and I could think straight again, I was like, I wonder if God healed my Crohn's when he healed my feet. I'm like, no way. Because remember, it can go into remission. I hadn't been sick because I was pregnant. Like, I didn't have any symptoms. But again, people with Crohn's don't have an appendicitis. So I'm like, that's weird. So I called my doctor. I ordered tests. you're supposed to have them every 5 years anyway. So they were like, why? It was a different state, so different doctor. And they're like, we don't understand why you want to do this. I'm like, I just am supposed to have them, so we're going to do it. So I remember waking up from that test, and the doctor was a grumpy old man, old doctor. And I just remember, I still got the little mask thing on, little gas mask or whatever. And I just remember him telling Andy, she doesn't have Crohn's. It's nowhere in her body, and I never want to see her in my office ever again. And then he leaves. And Andy looks at me and he's like, you don't have Crohn's anymore. And I just started crying. And long story short, you can go, I went, obviously, because it was a different doctor. So I went, he obviously didn't believe that I ever had it. So, I mean, I got all my paper. And I don't need that. I don't need that paperwork, because when you are sick, you know that you're sick, and it's like nothing else. So I don't need it on a test or a piece of paper, but I still got it all. I have it all in my file. I'll never get rid of it all, because I mean, I had it. I'd had it since I was in the 7th grade. And he is like, she's crazy. She does not have it, and it's nowhere in her body. Don't ever come back to my office again. After that, Andy went to, he's got to go get the car or whatever. And I'm still crying, and the nurse is comforting me. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm just a mess. I can't stop crying. I just feel so loved. And she just pats me on the shoulder. She's like, it's okay, honey. It's just the drugs. It's just the drugs. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. And so what I love to explain is I just thought healing was going to be like in the Bible. It was going to be this thing that people saw, like in front of a crowd, or maybe you see on TV or at some big churches or something. People would just radically get healed, and like their arm grew, or they stood up out of the wheelchair. I don't know. That's what I expected. Mm-hmm. And I realized in that little tiny hospital recovery area that I was completely healed, but that nobody had to know about it unless I wanted to tell it. And it was the most intimate feeling, the most overwhelming love feeling that I've ever felt in my entire life, because this beautiful gift that is for his glory, but if I wanted to keep it private and just be between my Savior and me, he was okay with that. I didn't have to tell anybody. Now, that's not my personality. Of course, I'm going to shout it from the rooftops. Oh my gosh, guess what Jesus did for me? But I actually could have kept this secret between just him and I. And more than anything, that overwhelmed me more than anything of just, I never have to worry about being sick again. It was this love that he loves me this much, and he did this very special thing for me. Now, you could say, well, that's awesome, but why did he make you wait 19 years? Why did you have to be a kid with this? Why did you have to grow up dealing with this in high school when it wasn't in remission, or the medications you had to be on and how that affected you? Why those things? And I don't have answers for that, except for this healing came right after my dad had passed away from kidney cancer. And I was very fearful of my own health after that. And this was the most perfect timing, because it was God basically saying, I mean, I still have to be wise. I still have to eat right. I still have to be wise and be healthy. But I have never been fearful for my health ever since, because it was basically God saying, I'm in control. I'm in charge of your health. I've got your body. This is us together. This is not just whatever happened to someone else could happen to you. I don't have to live in a fear. And so the timing, would it have been great if he healed me when I was 20? Sure, that would have been great. But the timing of it took away all my health fears for eternity. I don't have to worry about my health. And so the timing was absolutely perfect, even though it took 19 years. And there's one other crazy part. Of course, like I said, I shout it from the rooftops. I want people to know that God still heals. But we had moved with some friends to help them start a church. So we'd moved away from our big church where everybody knew my story. They all knew all about what God had done. And I was trying to make new friends in this new city and get to know people. So I'd gone out to coffee with a lady. She was a retired nurse. And somehow we got to talking, and I told her about how I'd been healed of Crohn's. And she stopped me and she goes, honey, I hate to tell you this, but you are not really healed. It's just in remission. And as she's speaking, because I don't want to be rude and just cut her off, but I should have, but I just was, as she's speaking in my head, I'm just in my brain, I'm saying, I rebuke you. I'm not listening to you.
Right.
I am literally not letting those thoughts entertain in my head. That is what I was saying while her lips were moving. I didn't give it a second thought. I didn't even talk about it to go home and tell Andy what happened. Nothing. I didn't even think anything of it. The next day, that was a Friday night. The next day I wake up and I was sick. my stomach was sick. And Andy, I stopped him. I said, this is what happened yesterday. Pray over me right now. Like this happened. Like, and I didn't think anything of it, but pray over me because she spoke this and she said I wasn't healed. And I know I am. And so he prayed for me. Then a couple days later, we were again in a new city and it's an evening and we want to hang out with our kids and they don't know people yet. And so we're like, let's go to pizza. So it was just our family. We go to pizza and all of a sudden, all of our phones start blowing up. Everyone's texting. People are trying to call. We're like, what is going on? Everybody from back home, the church we had come from. And we're like, what is going on? Can't people leave us alone? And anyway, and then finally, somebody texts or one of us answer. And they're like, there is a prophet here who in the middle of his preaching, he stopped and he said, I have a word for somebody named Keri. And so it's a very huge church. So they're looking around for people named Keri. And he goes, no, it's a very unique spelling. It's Keri.
Oh my God.
Now we had left maybe 6 months ago or something. So we're not in the forefront of everybody's mind. And then finally someone's like, well, we have church planners that just left and they're like, you need to tell her she does not have Crohn's. It's nowhere in her body and she never has to worry about it again for the rest of her life.
Wow. Oh
now, to the rest of the church, they're all like, yeah, we've heard all about Keri's heal. We know, yes, we all know. Like everyone's like, this is old news, dude. Can't you come up with some words of, give us some fresh stuff, right? But nobody knew what had just happened with that lady saying that and then me waking up and my stomach was sick. And so literally from that moment forward, I eat anything I want. I eat all the garlic. I have all the dill pickles that I can eat without being, like literally actually sick because it'd make anyone sick. But I can eat anything. I have never been sick. I do not have it. And it is nowhere in my body and I never have to worry about it again for the rest of my life.
Wow.
So God does heal. And again, I was a kid when I was diagnosed. I'm not a big person on research and figuring everything out. But now being older, I just know it is very significant what he healed me from. And people do message me and they do share their stories with me and it makes me sad. But it just very much humbles me because it is such a dramatic healing. It is not just a cold and all of a sudden I felt better. It's life-changing, complete healing, life-saving healing, because you can have very serious consequences to the side effects from this. And that is what God has healed me from.
Wow. What an incredible miracle, Keri.
It's not just in the Bible. He is still actively healing people today. And I didn't have even a good attitude that time. Like before I'd be like, yes, I believe. Yes, you can do it. This time I'm like going up to the front to get prayed for, all grumpy. Like, I can't believe Andy's making me do this. Won't he stop elbowing me? He's like nudging me to get up. I don't want to do this. I'm 8 months pregnant. And then it's like, great. She's the only lady left. Like, great. Everyone's going to see me climb over the baptism tank in my skirt, 8 months pregnant. I was like a bad attitude the entire time. I didn't even deserve for him to heal me. Like, I was in such a bad mood. I was so grumpy about it. And then again, I thought it would be this huge display, like a big show, like a big, as it should be, because that is the magnitude of what he did for me. So it should be a big show. But it was this very intimate, the doctor just coming in and saying, she's crazy. She doesn't have it. What are you doing here? Go away. And that's how I knew I was healed. That's how I was told I was healed. And it could have just been our secret.
Wow. That's so inspiring. And thank you so much for sharing that, because people need to hear that miracles and healing can still happen today, just like they did back in the Bible. Mm-hmm. And you are living proof of that. And just like all the little things that he had to take into account for that to happen, like the fact that you would be resistant to go up there. And so when you finally got up there, you were with the right person to pray for you. And then, even like the little seed of doubt that might have gotten planted, but then how he reached out through that guy to be like, no, you are healed forever. Yeah. Like, he wanted to make it abundantly clear of his...
Without a doubt.
Wow.
And the one thing I do love praying for people to be healed now, passionately. I love sharing my story, but also praying for people to be healed. And when I do, I don't remember what that lady said when she prayed, because really she was just a vessel. It's just, that was the time that God used. That's when he decided that was the right time for me to be healed. But I just wonder if she prayed that because again, I went up for the pain in my feet. I didn't even go up for my Crohn's because I wasn't actively sick at that moment. And I just wonder if when she prayed that God would heal everything from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. And that is something that I pray every single time I pray for somebody, because they might go up for one thing, but there might be 3 other things too. And so whatever it is, the things that they remember to ask for healing about and the things that they don't even know that are there that need healing yet, or maybe it's mental, or maybe it's hurts, maybe it's all kinds of different things that need healing. I just always include just anything I could have forgotten or don't even know about. Lord, just please bring healing, your touch from the top of their head to the bottom of their feet. So that's when I pray. That's how I pray for people.
So I have to know, has there been anybody that you've prayed for that has found healing?
So a couple times now. This is so difficult because I don't want to get people's hopes up. So don't let the word get out. Please don't let the word get out. I have prayed for 2 ladies who could not have kids, and both of them have now had babies. And they asked me to pray for them. And I'm like, no, you need to go ask so-and-so. She's way more spiritual than I am. Like, God will answer her prayers. And they're like, no, I want you to pray for me. I'm like, but why? I literally said, but why? So I prayed right there. We were at Magnolia, like Chip and Joanna Gaines, Magnolia. We were there in Waco. And I prayed for her. And later she came to visit the church. And there's this little baby she was holding. And they're all beaming, her and her aunt, and who was my friends. And I was like, why are you guys smiling? They're like, this is him. I'm like, this is who? This is the baby you prayed for. I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't pray for it. They're like, yes, at Magnolia, you prayed that she'd get pregnant and have a baby, and this is the baby. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't even know. And so, yeah, that has happened. But don't tell people, because honestly, because it can be so heartbreaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's I don't want people's hopes to get up. It's God's timing. And that's what I learned more than anything, is it's God's perfect timing. Even if at the moment it's not making sense to us, even if it doesn't seem fair, or it's hurtful, or it doesn't make sense why a kid has to be on such horrible medications or be dealing with such horrible things. In the end, he really does have a plan. And he really is in control, and he is our dad, and he absolutely is taking care of us and has our best.
Amen. Yes, he does. Well, thank you so much, Keri, for sharing that powerful testimony of God's healing and his goodness and the miracles that he can perform and his timing and the way he moved in your life. That was just truly inspiring. And I thank you so much for your heart to share. And also, side note, thank you so much for just who you are as a person and for pastoring our church so well, you and your husband. And we're just really thankful for you. And I'm just so glad I got to finally have you on the podcast. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
If you were blessed by this episode, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future testimonies. And if you want to pass on the blessing to others, please leave a review and share to your page. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.